1. ICE, Stephen Miller, and lies. 2. After fantasizing about the murder of his political opponents, a candidate for Attorney General in Virginia is winning. We break down Virginia and New Jersey with Scott Presler. 3. Turning Point's Savanah Hernandez and foxnews.com's David Marcus behind the lines in Portland. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel on this Tuesday. News, and news. The FBI looking into Republican senators and monitoring their calls and communications. A judge giving leniency to an assassin because he is trans. And chaos in Portland that the media describes as defending brown people from racial profiling against ICE. Let's get into it now with story number 1. Media responsibility exists in a scale. Envision, if you might, in your mind, a mountaintop. And there, at the highest snowy peaks, 10,000 feet above the surface, media responsibility is best illustrated if you can climb to the heights in the thin air of Media Everest, sitting there like a Sherpa, waiting for you to arrive at the truth, would be none other than Whoopi Goldberg and The View.
Everybody, get a little cocoa butter, sit in the sun. That's the first thing. And then, and this is the only time you can probably ever do this, give yourself a Latin accent.
You know, Whoopi, that is such a good idea.
And see if she can tell who's who.
With reports coming out that ICE may stake out Bad Bunny's performance at the Super Bowl, Whoopi Goldberg and The View suggest that in order to thwart the efforts of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, get some cocoa butter, sit in the sun, and put on a Latino accent. Why is that? Why would they think that you might fall under the suspicion of ICE if you simply had a suntan? Well, they would think that because the mainstream media is preaching that ICE is out there racial profiling, that it's simply looking for Latinos, citizens and illegal immigrants alike. It's after brown people. Whoopi Goldberg is not at the top of Mount Everest. She is not the height of media responsibility. She's more like a backwater channel on a river with all the flotsam and jetsam collecting there in that slack water from what flows down the river from mainstream media, like CNN. Unfortunately for CNN, they invited on the White House's Stephen Miller. Watch.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks, they're taking jobs away from whites, they're taking jobs away from Latinos, they're taking their health benefits away, they're taking their school slots away, and of course in many cases they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens, and that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy... I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well,
I appreciate that, but
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed to...
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
When I said it was a dumb question, I thought that it served to answer the question. No, we're not profiling brown people. The CNN journalist, trying to put on his journalist hat, conducting a very even-keeled and calm-demeanored, tough interview for the people in power, but being totally ignorant, really on the level of Whoopi Goldberg, of actual policies implemented by ICE. The Supreme Court of the United States did not embolden ICE to employ a racist policy. What they said is that you don't have to ignore race among a myriad of factors when trying to determine who is an illegal immigrant. Location, job, race, ethnicity, language skills. You know, basically the codification of common sense. That you could interact in this world and try and very easily ascertain whether or not someone's legal status in the United States is above board, whether or not they are a citizen of the United States. But CNN keeps doing this in that same interview. They keep running headfirst at 100 miles an hour into a wall. That wall is Stephen Miller. It continued when they talked about the demonstrations, the riots, the crime in Portland.
If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear of yours?
They're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaging in vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for assistance and help.
If a
You are outclassed, my friend. I'm sorry you have run headfirst into this wall. First of all, is it a rowdy demonstration when a sniper sits on top of a roof and takes shots at ICE agents? Well, okay, good point. But the National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas where that sniper attack took place on ICE. Yes, because Dallas and Texas police have responded to attacks on ICE facilities. In Portland and Chicago, local police are being issued stand-down orders. Stand by. Do not help ICE agents when they are rammed, boxed in, attacked. They just can't help themselves on CNN. They don't even try on HBO. John Oliver, who at this point, by the way, as an immigrant to the United States, naturalization needs to be questioned. Deportation on the table. Because when you encourage and clap and celebrate and yuck monkey laugh at the attack on federal agents, maybe this isn't the place for you in America. And make no mistake, that's exactly what he did on Last Week Tonight. Watch.
Details from federal authorities are limited, but our cameras captured a Border Patrol vehicle at the scene with flat tires. In response to the large crowd, agents left Westminster and the SUV was towed a few blocks away.
Perfect. Well done to everyone involved. And I absolutely love that woman said, "I came to bother ICE." Because that seems reasonable to me. If ICE can show up and bother some guys at their roofing job, then bystanders should be able to bother ICE at their state-sanctioned kidnapping job. It is only fair.
Well done to everyone involved, says the Englishman. Calling ICE a state-sanctioned kidnapping service. He celebrates flattened tires and attacks and bothering ICE. You might deport yourself back to England, where law enforcement is much more concerned with enforcing free speech laws than migration, illegal and otherwise, in the UK. There they welcome in their Muslim infiltration into the UK. Here, we're still trying to preserve a civilization, a culture. We're still trying to preserve the United States of America. But all of this talk of Stephen Miller and what he's had to say on media and social media, and the way that he's conducted his job and his abilities to push back on narratives has really earned him the ire, by the way. There was a home that burned of a judge who had made some rulings against President Donald Trump. When these things happen, as I think we've done a very good job here, when the instances have shown up, whether or not that's the murder of Charlie Kirk or the attack on ICE agents, you wait for the evidence, but when the evidence comes in, you go full-throated on what actually happened and you tell the truth, but you don't outpace the evidence to tell your audience the narrative that you want to paint. When that house burned down of a judge who had been criticized by Stephen Miller and President Trump, MSNBC's Nicole Wallace took no time to rush out ahead of the evidence to say, this is Stephen Miller's fault. This is the fault of the rhetoric of Donald Trump. Watch.
When we come back, what we're learning about the fire that destroyed the home of a South Carolina circuit court judge who faced criticism from Trump officials after a ruling she made against the Trump administration. It comes amid a surge in hostility and threats against judges, as well as criticism directly from the Trump administration, including for Judge Goodstein, after she temporarily blocked the Justice Department from accessing the files of millions of registered voters in South Carolina.
Blaming that fire on President Trump, on rhetoric, on Stephen Miller. There's one small problem. The evidence doesn't support it. It doesn't even support arson. Not only was it not someone inspired by Donald Trump, it wasn't someone, period. Did Stephen Miller instigate an electrical fire? Did he instigate a fireplace burning out of control? It wasn't arson. But you want so badly to try to flip the tables, to project, to turn the conversation into one other than reality, which is the left's rhetoric leading to violent responses, obviously most notably against ICE and against Charlie Kirk. But they're not telling you the truth. They're trying to flip the tables, win an argument, and tell you a narrative. That's why it's all anti-Donald Trump, anti-ICE, pro-illegal immigrant, pro-protests, violence, crime in Chicago and in Portland. But what is really happening in these places? What is the truth? What's happening in Portland? Savanah Hernandez is a reporter and political commentator. She's with Turning Point USA's Frontlines contributor, and she joins us now where she has been behind the scenes in Portland. Hey, Savannah, good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Will.
What have you seen in Portland?
Ooh, I think it would be easier to ask what I haven't seen in Portland. It's been an absolute mess over there. I've been there on and off since July, and as we all know, the ICE facility over there has been under siege for over 100 days. Now, when I went back there in July, the entire ICE facility was covered in graffiti reading, "Shoot ICE pigs, kill Trump, Trump will hang, the only good cop is a dead cop." When I went back this last week, all of that graffiti was thankfully cleaned up, but of course you still have Antifa members that are out front of that facility calling for ICE agents to die, calling for violence against Americans, and of course occupying that area and just being a complete nuisance to all of the law-abiding Americans in Portland. So it's an absolute mess over there, and you know, just to remind viewers as well of a quick timeline of what's been happening, because for some reason, all of the federal officials or the state officials in Oregon are trying to play this off as if nothing's really been going on over there. June 4th is the first day that they had their protests, and that's when they were trying to block ICE vehicles, similar to what we're seeing across the nation. So they were impeding federal agents on June 4th. It has only devolved since then. You've had ICE agents that have been doxxed and threatened, okay? So Antifa members have been printing out their photos with their home addresses and encouraging other Antifa members to go to their homes to attack and threaten them. On top of that, you have had a guillotine with a sharpened blade at the beginning of September that was brought to a protest outside of this facility, in an attempt to peacefully protest, as CNN might say. And then you also had Katie Davis Court, who just last week was brutally assaulted by one of these Antifa protesters, and this is something that is very common. I've been reporting in Portland and on Antifa since 2020, and they've always been violent, they've always been aggressive, they've always been a domestic terrorist organization. Thank the good Lord that President Trump is finally coming forward and declaring them that, so we can take the proper precautions and protocols moving forward regarding this organization. But Portland is an absolute mess, and you still have Americans being beaten up in the streets by this organization today.
Couple of quick follow-ups. Savannah, we played a video from you yesterday where you showed an interview with one of these Antifa members talking about, he was burning a MAGA hat and talking about Charlie Kirk being a fascist. So you've interacted with these people. You see their personality. You see their motivations. If an ICE agent leaves that Portland facility, he walks out onto the street, he's confronted with these crowds. What happens? What happens when they pull out in their vehicle? What happens when they walk out on the street?
You know, immediately as soon as they walk out, they are being flooded by these Antifa members. They are hurling insults at them. Sometimes they're hurling weapons at them. We have seen arson attacks on this building. We have seen, you've had Antifa members throw machetes at these ICE agents. So they're extremely violent. They're extremely aggressive. They're constantly telling them to kill themselves, to jump off the building. So pretty much the most aggressive things that you can imagine. And then on top of that, in the surrounding areas, they have Antifa art that says, kill Nazis, right-wing journalists deserve the gulag. They have a bunch of pictures of Charlie Kirk that they have drawn all over the place that says Charlie down. Again, next to a lot of these calls for violence against the right wing. I work with Turning Point USA. When I was there last week reporting on the ground, they found out, the Antifa members did, that I work with Turning Point, made a point to burn a MAGA hat right next to my face, say, this is our message to you, and then essentially kind of torment me about the fact that Charlie was just brutally assassinated.
So, Savannah, you've been covering Antifa since 2020. You've had up close and personal interactions. You've videoed that. You've shared that with us. Who are these people? What are their motivations? How do they treat you? You just told us an example, but I can't imagine they treat you kindly or welcome you in, but you have been able to continue in your reporting for the past 5 years. So give me a little insight into Antifa.
Sure. So if you want to report on Antifa, specifically back in 2020, you had to dress up in black bloc and you had to go undercover, because back in 2020, if they saw you with even your phone out, they were going to beat you with a steel bat. And this is something that was terrifying back then, right? This was during BLM, George Floyd, all of these riots. Journalists were really risking life and limb, just like Andy Ngo, to go and get this footage, because we did have to go undercover. Again, when the president declares these people a domestic terrorist organization, they absolutely are. They go in, they threaten journalists because they are committing criminal acts, and they don't like it when you film said criminal acts. In Portland, I have even watched them. You have an older tourist. I want to say she was in her 50s or 60s. She's walking down the street. It's in the middle of a Saturday, and this huge group of people in black bloc are there. She's just curious. She picks up her phone to film. They all start mobbing her and threatening her. This was an older woman. I myself have been beaten up by Antifa in Austin, Texas. So keep in mind as well that this isn't just happening in Portland, Oregon. This is widespread. It is across the nation. They declare themselves as anti-fascist, but in reality, they are doing everything possible to foment chaos on the streets of America, because they have created this boogeyman of white supremacy, which is why they come after Asian and Hispanic journalists like myself or Andy Ngo, because they have declared us fascists who deserve the death penalty, essentially, for having different political opinions or for simply filming their crimes or filming the news as it happens on the street. So that's exactly who Antifa is. Again, they're very well funded. They're very widespread across the nation. And it's incredible to see that we are finally able to shine such a bright light on this very violent organization.
Savannah, I hope you will hang out with us. I hope you'll continue to join us and bring us updates, not just from Portland, but as we dig a little deeper into Antifa, we'd love to share your expertise. So we hope to see you again, and thank you for your time here today, Savanah Hernandez.
Thanks, Will.
Okay. Check her out, by the way, at Turning Point, and wherever you can find her on social media. She has a lot of great content where you get to see firsthand interactions with Antifa. Jay Jones, running for Attorney General in the state of Virginia, has fantasized about the murder of his political opponents and their children. He's still in the race, and he hasn't lost a single endorsement in Virginia. But what's that done to polling? What do the voters of Virginia think? Scott Presler, who's with Early Vote Action and done great things across this country, impactful things across several election cycles, looks into that and the tight race also in New Jersey. Scott Presler, coming up on Will Cain Country. Midterms. Are Republicans in trouble? With a man who knows. Scott Presler. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, but follow us whenever you like. Listen at Spotify or on Apple. Scott Presler is the founder of Early Vote Action. He's been very effective and not just active in several election cycles. He's very focused as well on New Jersey and Virginia, and we're glad to have Scott here on the show. What's up, Scott?
Hey, Will, live from Union City, New Jersey.
live from Union City, New Jersey. And you have not been critical of ICE, but I imagine you'd be careful if you had posted anything on ICE, at least if you're heeding the warnings of Governor Gavin Newsom. I've been talking about all of these different issues and this misinformation when it comes to CNN, but the biggest source of misinformation, and by the way, my favorite new topic is projection. It's almost biblical that when someone accuses you of their own sins, that's exactly what they are doing. You got to see this, Scott, everybody watching. This is what Governor Gavin Newsom's press office posted on X. It's almost like a Far Side type cartoon. It's a newspaper-looking cartoon, and it's a man answering the door with a bunch of stormtroopered ICE agents on the other side of his front door. The caption reads, "Honey, did you post something negative about the regime?" It's just so incredibly rich, Scott. It's such a great illustration of projection. This is the man that arrested people for surfing on the beach. This is the man who told everybody to stay in their homes while he went to eat at the French Laundry. And this is, by the way, the thing that is happening in the UK, but not in America under President Donald Trump.
No, well, and furthermore, the left is daring to say that MAGA is fascist for holding people accountable for celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. But I think any reasonable person in America can dare venture to say that anybody in healthcare that is responsible for life or death situations, or anybody that's an educator responsible for the hearts and minds of children, probably shouldn't be celebrating somebody's assassination, whether or not you agree with those people. And so we believe in consequence culture.
Pretty low bar, though. Pretty low bar. Hold someone accountable for not celebrating murder. On that note, by the way, that's a perfect transition into what's happening in Virginia. Jay Jones, the candidate for Attorney General, in a series of exposed text messages, showed himself to be fantasizing about putting 2 bullets in the head of his political opponent. Also violence he fantasized about on that candidate, that opponent's wife and children. He's still in the race, Scott. He hasn't lost a single endorsement in Virginia. And I just looked it up. I'm sure you know. But the current state of that race for Attorney General in Virginia shows that he's leading Jason Miyares 49-43. Now, who knows when that polling came out, the latest polling, and was it after the revelation of these text messages? But look, I've been calling it assassination culture. It's not just because of attacks on ICE or the murder of Charlie Kirk. It's because we've seen the polling where a shocking number of the left voters think political violence is acceptable in some situations. And it appears that this is one of those situations. It's okay in Virginia.
Well, at the end of the day, the only poll that truly matters is what happens on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. And I'll remind the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia, I now am a Pennsylvanian, but I grew up in Virginia. And they have 45 days of in-person early voting. So if you happen to be inspired today by the Will Cain show and you're going, I am not going to allow a far-left radical Democrat attorney general that literally wants to exterminate his political opposition to win, then I encourage you, you get out and vote in person early today and lock in your vote for Winsome Sears, for John Reed, and for Attorney General Jason Miyares. Because at the end of the day, what is the Attorney General responsible for? That is part of the executive branch, the people that actually do indictments and hold people accountable. Do you think that this Jones character is going to hold political violence accountable in the Commonwealth of Virginia when he is a part of that assassination culture? And I think the answer is no. And so if we want accountability in Virginia, you must vote. But the last thing that I want to say, Will, that's actually really interesting is if you look at the data of people that are modeled to have voted already early in person in Virginia, you'll see that the Democrats have more raw voters that have come out to vote, but they're locking in their 4 out of 4 voters. They're hard Democrat voters. You'll note that actually when it comes to low propensity, Republicans are getting more 0 out of 4 voters and 1 out of 4 voters. So this race is in play. Anyone can win.
And you would extend that, I would assume, because it's across the ballot, to the governor's race, which you talked about, Winsome Earl Sears, who Again, I
Yes.
just looked up most recent polling for what it's worth, is at 42, while Abigail Spanberger is at 52. You know, Jay Jones is one thing. He said this stuff in 2022, but it's almost like a litmus test in 2025. After what we've seen the last couple of months, I think it speaks volumes about Democrat politicians that don't denounce or withdraw their endorsement of Jones. I mean, and that includes Spanberger, among many other candidates in Virginia. If you can't today sit here and say that low bar you referenced earlier, Scott, this is a bar that we will not go below. We will not go below endorsing someone who has fantasized about murder. Then I just think, to your point on your conversation to the viewers and the voters of Virginia, well, then what is your bar? Have you none?
Yes.
Like, it isn't about, and you said this earlier, like, if I run into a teacher, say at one of my children's school, who disagrees or preaches a certain level of politics that's different than mine, okay, I don't love it, but I mean, I understand that to be, the way it is in America. But I do think I have a right to expect a low-level bar of basic human decency, that you don't celebrate the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I just think we're kind of in the same range, that if you can't walk away and pull an endorsement, or as a voter, decline to vote for someone who doesn't pull their endorsement from a guy that's talked about putting 2 bullets in his opponent's head, I don't know. I don't know what that says about Virginia. And I hope this 42-52 Spanberger Earl Sears doesn't reflect the mindset of Virginians.
Well, at the end of the day, anyone in politics knows that personnel is policy. And when you are not vocal against something, that is tacit approval for it. Any Democrat that does not denounce Jay Jones celebrating the murder and extermination of his political opponents is tacitly approving of his statements, whether they agree with that or not. And furthermore, look it over in Jersey with Mikey Sherrill. That is going to be a Phil Murphy, lockdown Phil Murphy 2.0. And so really the voters have an obligation in this election. Republicans, you must come out and vote. Any person that doesn't vote as a Republican in the upcoming Tuesday, November 4, 2025 election, Republicans who don't vote allow Democrats to win. You enable them, you empower them, and you ultimately have the power to stop them, but you got to come out and vote.
And it's really tight, Scott, right? New Jersey. That's what, again, with the caveat that whatever you can do to trust where polling is, that one's 43-43. Jack Ciattarelli,
yes.
Mikey Sherrill, Republican, Democrat, pretty tied up in New Jersey.
Well, and let's go over the last day to register to vote, Will. It just so happens that October 14th, Charlie Kirk's birthday, is the last day to register to vote in the Garden State. And so please go to nj.gov, NJ meaning New Jersey.gov, and register to vote. Make sure that you're registered by 11:59 p.m. on October 14th. And remember that the first day of early in-person voting is October 25th. According to the data, Republicans actually are doing a little bit better in not only mail-in ballot raw returns, but the return percentage compared to the Democrats this year in 2025 comparatively to last year and to 2021, where, by the way, Jack Ciattarelli only lost by 84,000 votes. 600,000 Republicans did not vote in 2021 when Jack Ciattarelli lost by 84,000 votes. New Jersey is in play. This election is winnable, and that's why Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, myself, Judge Mike Donahue of the Cape May County GOP, we are all going to Wildwood on Friday the 10th. We're doing a huge rally, and ultimately we're going to inspire people to vote early in person on October 25th. Look, the machines might go down. You might have bad weather. The electricity might go out. Too many bad things happen on Election Day. The way that you can lock in your vote for Jack Ciattarelli and our entire Republican ticket is by voting early October 25th through November 2nd. You have 9 days of early in-person voting, Will, in New Jersey.
Scott, you sound a little encouraged when you talk about both Virginia and New Jersey and what you've seen in early voting.
Yes.
I do think, I don't have it in front of me, Scott, that it's like a pinned tweet on your profile on X, but I seem to gather you are, though, concerned. You're concerned about the midterms for Republicans.
I am. Well, we are the low propensity party now, whether good or bad. We just won the popular vote. You in 2024, our viewers at home, you won all 7 swing states: Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. You delivered the popular vote for Donald Trump. You won Pennsylvania with more than 120,000 votes. Yet, in the primary that we just had in Pennsylvania, Republicans only had 17.9% of voters vote. Democrats had 21% of registered Democrats vote. We lost a special election in Pennsylvania. We lost a special election in Iowa. We have been losing special after special election in 2025 after delivering the White House, the House, and the Senate for Donald Trump and the Republican Party last year in 2024. We are the low propensity party. And
so, Scott, let's analyze that. Let's analyze that really quickly, why that would be the case, that Republicans are the low propensity voter. I see that, and I immediately think it reflects the power of the personality of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump is not on the ticket, then you are losing motivation for people to go vote.
In part, I would argue that this America First movement is going to continue with President Trump understanding being our president and leading the banner as it is right now. But this movement is going to continue forward. That's part number one. Part number two, who makes up this new big, beautiful Republican Party? Truck drivers, teachers, construction workers, flight attendants, pilots, doctors, healthcare professionals, moms, dads. We are busy people with busy lives, working 12-hour days, trying to work on behalf of our families. And a lot of us are working class that take us out of our precinct on election day. And so therefore, if we don't plan ahead, if we don't have a mail-in ballot, if we don't vote early, we're going to lose a lot of those blue-collar working class votes, because election day is always going to be on the first Tuesday of November. And so knowing and having an understanding that our base is so working class and low propensity, the only way that we're going to continue to win right now is if we embrace an all of the above approach to voting, which is why our work at earlyvoteaction.com is so important.
One last topic with you here, Scott, because you brought it up earlier. You know, this power of projection we talked about when it came to Gavin Newsom and the accusations of fascism and authoritarianism. The projection is on quite display today, where we're seeing Attorney General Pam Bondi testify before the Senate. We've seen the exclusive reporting, first on Fox News Digital, then a gaggle by Senator Chuck Grassley, about the way the FBI was used to go after Republican senators, a dozen of them, their phone calls, their communications monitored by the FBI under the banner of investigating January 6th. If that is not a threat to democracy, I don't know the definition of a threat to democracy. And the funny thing is, for anybody watching and listening, I don't even think you have to care about Marsha Blackburn. I don't think you have to care about that particular Republican senator. The real question you have to answer is, if they feel so emboldened to go after 12 senators, how do you think they feel about the average American? Like, what is their willingness to use the powers of the government and the FBI to go after the average American who disagrees if they're willing to go after a senator? And if, Scott, that is the threat to democracy.
And look at history is repeating itself, Will. Is no one remembering Lois Lerner with the IRS, which was weaponized against Tea Party and conservative groups under the Obama administration? Is nobody remembering pro-life activists who have prayed outside of abortion offices that have been arrested and detained? Is nobody remembering the COVID lockdowns and the forced vaccinations and the firings that happened by our government for people who would dare support bodily autonomy and their choice to make their own decisions in their lives? This is nothing new. This is just a repeat. And more importantly, this is tying a red, big, beautiful bow on the fact that if you elect Jay Jones as AG in Virginia, he's coming after you. And he's not going to hold accountable people on his side that commit violence against us. And the same goes for Mikey Sherrill, who will be a lockdown Phil Murphy 2.0. And the last point I want to hit is in Pennsylvania, we have a historic opportunity, Will, to defeat 3 Democrat Supreme Court justices. If you live in Pennsylvania, I need your vote this November. You vote no to retention to Democrat justices Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht that locked you down during COVID. All of these abuses of injustice must be held to account, and the way that we do that is at the ballot box this November.
All right, he is with Early Action Vote, or Early Vote Action. Scott Presler is the founder of it. We always enjoy the conversation, Scott. Thank you for being with us here today on Will Cain Country.
Thank you, sir.
All right, no problem. Over in the Willisha, Dan Cain, same last name, different spelling, spelled like Big Daddy Kane, says, "My guy will appreciate you, buddy. Sorry about your Longhorns, man. Not looking too good." And King's Auto and Speed said, "Thanks for the show, Will. I enjoy all your content. I do miss the old days, though. You and Pete kicked ass." I'd like to think King's still kicking ass, just in different arenas. Justin Hofford says, "What's up, Will? Listening from good old Paris, Tennessee." What's up, Justin? And then, on the topic of today, Freedom says, "Stephen Miller is awesome. He points out how stupid these people are." James Marsh over on YouTube says he'd be arrested in the UK if he was speaking about England police. Master Chief, Will, what do you think about Zach Bryan's new song lyrics, which dropped yesterday? I'll tell you what, Master Chief, we're going to talk about Zach Bryan tomorrow. I have some thoughts about Zach Bryan, his music, his politics, his personality, his behavior, and country music at large. I hate to do a deep tease, but if you join us again at noon tomorrow, Eastern Time, right here at Will Cain Country, we'll address Zach Bryan. And then Pamela Nichols says, "Will, I'm disappointed to see that Clemson helmet on your desk. Go Gamecocks." Well, Pamela, I'm open to a package. If you want to send us a Gamecocks helmet, it could find its way here on the desk. We've had now a promise of a Gamecocks helmet and a Georgia Bulldog helmet. There's also reports of a Horned Frog helmet headed for the desk. Send yours in if you like. You might be right here on Will Cain Country. I'll tell you who's right here next is David Marcus. He's coming up next. Hey, we're so excited to announce the return of the most patriotic award show on TV. The Fox Nation Patriot Awards is back and better than ever, hosted by our very own Sean Hannity. Thursday, November 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern, live from the Tillis Center, right in New York. And tickets are on sale now at foxnation.com/Patriot Awards. We had a record-setting show last year. But this year's is going to be even bigger with surprise guests, amazing new awards, and even a special honor for the life and legacy of our friend Charlie Kirk. You don't want to miss it. Get your tickets now at foxnation.com/Patriot Awards. And we and I hope to see you there. David Marcus next on Will Cain Country. I want the review from Ed. I got some fancy Zens from the convenience store at a office development over here in Dallas. It's a home to all the finance bros, and the finance bros like their nicotine. And so he's now ordering it from Europe. Check this out, boys. Fizzy Cola. Fizzy Cola. It's one of those things that sounds really good, and you're like, that's not going to be
disgusting.
right. But it actually is. I want your review. It's actually really good, two-a-days.
No way.
It's actually really good.
False.
You like it, Ed? He likes it. I don't know what language this is on the side, but it's not from America. And nobody's heard of it. You got Fizzy Cola? There's all kinds of flavors they got in Europe. All kinds. I'm not suggesting that you take up nicotine. I'm just whatever. It is Will Cain Country here on YouTube, the Will Cain Country YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and Apple. Ramza, over in the comment section, the Willisha says, just tuning in. I thought Scott was promoting his new music album or something. Yeah, I got you, Ramza. Scott does look like, what does Scott look like? He's in Creed? Would it be like Creed? Yeah, he's
like
got that long
new
hair.
metal.
Like,
yeah. Like a new metal band.
Scott Presler 100% looks like he's in Creed. Like, I don't even know what other band is in that range.
Imagine
like
a music
if you're
video.
Thinking of another band.
With his hair flowing.
Oh, yeah. A fan in his face. It's amazing. Suzanne over in the Willisha says, Scott gives Will a run for his money in best hair. LOL. I think we're doing totally different genres, me and Scott Presler. Hey, speaking of music and genres of hair, let's bring in David Marcus, columnist at Fox News. He's also the author of Charade, the COVID Lies That Crushed a Nation. See, now, if Scott's in Creed, right, David's doing something different with his hair as well, right? I mean, half the time David's on whatever, this show or the Will Cain show, it's about his hair. Now, here's my thing, David. Your hairstyle is more like The Clash. Like Scott Presler, Creed, what you got going, I think 80s, not full punk. You're not like the Sex Pistols. No. You're the Sex Pistols that got a little popular, did a little top 40. So you're Duran Duran.
You're describing Morrissey, Will. I stole this haircut from Morrissey in 1992, and I've never looked back. I was once wearing a Morrissey.
Have you been rocking that since 92?
Oh, yeah. Occasionally for parts, I'd have to. There was one time I was playing like a Marine, and I had to do a high and tight. That was very weird. And I'll tell you, I might have told you a story before. I was living in New York at the time. And, you know, when you're a young guy, like sometimes you'll notice that like a woman's looking at you or something in a bar or whatever. Completely different women, Will. I mean, just night. And I'd look up and be like, why is this person looking at me? I'm like, oh, right. I look like I'm a Marine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to get to Portland in a second here, but I'm in my groove right now. Okay. So you go to a bar with that haircut and you get looks from what woman? You go to a bar with that high and tight and you get looks from what different woman? I want the two women.
I don't know, sort of like artsy New York downtown scene girl, and Doc Martens is group A. And I guess, I don't know how to put this, man. I worked with a woman at Starbucks once in was it Scarborough? It was upstate New York. But every Fleet Week, she would rent a hotel in New York and go down to Fleet Week. So that was the other kind.
Yeah, but you know what? See, that was a pure curiosity. I'm wandering into the wilderness question here. Like, if you had told me the Doc Martens arts girl all of a sudden had eyes for the high and tight haircut, I would have been like, huh, yeah. She's doing a bit. She's playing her character, but ultimately she's like, look at that alpha male. I want to go over there.
That's not how it worked. Sorry.
It's not how it works. Okay. Hold on. What was my other thing I wanted to ask David Marcus off this? I hate it when I lose my train of thoughts. I'll tell you what. I'm going to remember it while he's telling us about what's behind the scenes in Portland. Like Savanah Hernandez, you have been out there. You have been amongst the Antifas. And you have direct insight into not just what's going on the streets, but the kind of people that are doing it. Tell us what you've seen in Portland.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's a complete lack of order, right? So I'll start with the ICE facility itself. The first night I was down there after dark, I touched base with a couple of the cops. I was talking to them. Antifa clearly had run of the street. I interviewed this woman who was a counter-protester who had been there in her car, and I got some video. And I went around a corner to take some notes, smoke a cigarette. And when I came back, her car was completely surrounded by these masked, helmeted, costumed Antifa people screaming at her, berating her. Cops are just standing there. I don't like getting involved when I'm covering something, but this was starting to look dangerous to me, so I sort of waded my way through the Antifa people, tapped this woman who I've been talking to on the shoulder. I said, you might want to go. This is getting a little dicey, right? She said, I want to go. They won't let me go. So I look up and I go, guys, she wants to go. Let her go. And of all people, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of like the frog guy, the guy in like the big frog outfit. He is apparently their leader because he looks at me, or the frog eyes or whatever, And he goes, let her go. And so I back her up and sort of get her out. And I go to cross the street, and the cop's there, and he looks at me and he goes, what happened over there? And I said, well, they had her surrounded. They wouldn't let her leave. I helped her get out. And he goes, oh, good. It's good you did that. And I was like, what? So, like a couple minutes later, I start hearing the Antifa people screaming, run, Katie, run. And I know they're talking about Katie Davis-Gord, who's a post-millennial reporter who's down there quite a bit. So I turn around and I see this whole mass of Antifa sort of gathered around this one person who they're sort of trying to protect. Katie and another journalist named Shelley are trying to get video. I catch up to them, introduce myself to Katie, who I'd never met before, and find out that she's just been hit in the face with a flagpole. And you can see she's swelling, she's bruising. The cops right there would do nothing. And this amazed me, Will. I still can't get my head around this. The cops on the scene said to Katie, go walk north several blocks, and there'll be other cops who you can give a statement to. So I stuck with Katie and Shelley because it looked dicey, right? And I walked with them. Will, we walked a half mile in the dark. She could have had a concussion. We get to these two other cops, and the first thing the cop says is, our higher-ups told us not to engage because we don't want to become a flashpoint. They're police. I mean, it was abject and total surrender. And the only explanation I had for why they would have made this woman who had just been assaulted walk a half mile to make her statement before even checking her out was that they didn't want the Antifa assailant arrested, and I don't believe that assailant has been arrested to this day. And they were perfectly happy letting Antifa run the streets. It was madness, Will.
So, Ed, one of the guys on my show here, has texted me in this question not long ago for Savannah, but I didn't see it, so I'm going to ask you this question. You've been around it a lot as well. Covering this stuff, have you ever felt threatened? Have you ever felt your life in danger?
I've never felt my life in danger. There have been times when I felt threatened in New York with the New York Antifa, who I'll actually say are a little more physically intimidating than the Portland Antifa, who aren't. But then again, I'm 6'2", right? I'm not a 5'3" woman. So no, I have in the past.
Gosh,
I wasn't.
Everybody's so tall on Zoom. Add David to the list, like 10-foot Pat. I didn't have 6'2". I didn't have.
I've always
I
been
didn't
6'2".
see it. But
Doesn't
here's the
include the
thing,
hair.
David.
I'm
People
skinny.
say it to me too. I
Yeah.
don't read tall on TV. People say to me when they meet me all the time, "Wow, you're taller than I thought." So here we go. Add David to the list. 6'2".
You sound like there's doubt in your voice.
So that makes you feel safer. There is.
I mean, yeah.
I hope it sounds like it, because there is.
Yes, it made me feel a little. I was not physically intimidated by the Antifa in Portland.
New York Antifa versus
but it's beside the point. I mean, the point here, I have been wanting to go to Portland for a long time, having nothing to do with Antifa. You know, I cover the sort of vagrancy and addiction issue all over the country, and it's a major issue in Portland. So I had been saying to my editors for months, like, hey, I want to go check out Portland. And what I found was the two things are very much related. It's the civic government there has just completely abandoned any responsibility. And either you're wealthy, and there's very nice restaurants. I'll tell you, the oysters in the Pacific Northwest, fantastic. It's very expensive restaurants and nice little coffee houses. Then there are people with needles sticking out of their arms, and there's really nothing in between.
Well, I think I saw you on social media say this, and so was it you responding to Nick Kristof of the New York Times?
Yeah.
So Nick Kristof of the New York Times goes to Portland. He records a video of himself talking about, oh, it's such a war zone, and he's in some nice, pretty park area. And I think you responded, what I know is what's like 1 block away from where Nick is. So you've traveled, you've been to several of these cities, and so when you see someone say that, and they show images of Seattle or Portland, and, you know, it's whatever, it's bucolic. What is your response to them when they're showing that side of Seattle or Portland?
It's unbelievably callous. I mean, that's the only way that I can look at it. One of the feelings that I got, and I think that Kristof's little TikTok performance or whatever it is fits right into this, it reminded me of reading a Dickens novel, right? It reminded me of that sort of like 1830s, 1840s London where people with fancy hats and walking sticks are, holding nosegays up so that they don't have to smell the masses. I mean, that's sort of the distinction. He was going to a dinner at the Oregon Historical Society where I visited. Whenever I go cover places, I go to the local history museum. It often gives me some insight. Interestingly, in Portland, it didn't, because Portland is so divorced from its history. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was covering the floods in Hill Country, Texas, right, I learned that area had been founded by German freethinkers in the 1850s. And still, when you walk down the street in Burna, you'll see German street names. And I learned there was a direct line between the self-sufficiency of those guys, who walked from Galveston to Bernie to create a community, and the way the people in Hill Country were taking care of themselves after the flood, right? There was a connection to that history. In Western Pennsylvania, there's a connection to the French-Indian War. Don't get an old guy where I live in West Virginia started about, Lee's 1862 Maryland campaign. You'll never shut him up. I walk into the museum in Portland, and it's all about these pioneers and settlers and these brave people who did all this stuff. Not only is that not reflected now in the city of Portland, I think they're ashamed of it, right? I think it's colonizing and it's bad, right? And what's a leftist want to do? They want to divorce you from your history and your traditions. They've done a very good job in Portland. So that's where he was. And yes, the next block over, there's a park where junkies are just laid out, obviously. But the other thing is, I'm given to understand now that he lives there and has not gone down to the ICE facility. How's that even possible? I mean, how do you call yourself a journalist and you're a 15-minute Uber ride away and you haven't gone? These people are like frogs boiling, right? Like, they just have no idea. And when you come in as an outsider, you're like, look around, and they're like, no, it's great. This is the best city on earth.
Well, I find that so fascinating what you said about a connection to history, and I'm so proud of you as a journalist for not just, understanding that theoretically, intellectually. I love that you do, but it's such a reflection on you as a journalist. Like, it's easy to say, oh, I go to the Historical Society when I go to town. But you just rattled off a unique regional history that I know about because I'm a Texan and I'm super proud of Texas, and I lived in the Hill Country for a while. And that German influence and migration, which, by the way, for a casual observer, shows up in your Texas barbecue. It's the reason there is sausage. It's one of the three main parts of the plate. It's brisket, it's ribs, and it's sausage. And that's the German influence. It's why Scheinerbach is, one of the big beers of Texas. But you took the time to really know that about a really, honestly, not a huge geographic region of one state of the country. And I find that incredibly complimentary to the work that you do. I also find it equally fascinating about what it means for Portland, because you're right. The progressive and, yes, Marxist agenda is to divorce you from your connections to the past, that everything is a blank slate and you can start from here forward. And you see the effects of that in Portland. You see a people untethered from who they are, who they were, and they are blank slates to be shaped and deformed into the way a government or a popular movement wants.
Yes, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? And this is why I'm so frightened of Mamdani. And let's be honest, we already experienced this with de Blasio in New York. That was an abject disaster. It's why I don't live in New York anymore. But yeah, unfortunately, what happens when the far left takes over these cities, what we used to have were very corrupt Democrat Party machines. And they were very corrupt, make no mistake. But they didn't let communists be on the city council. They got their house down the shore through illicit means, but things basically kind of worked. And things worked for a middle class group of people. When these far leftists take over, that completely goes away. Like I was in Dallas the weekend before I was in Portland, and one of the things that Portland, there's only one other place I've covered that I don't like, and that was Durham, North Carolina. And there were similar reasons. They're actually similar places in a lot of ways. One of the things is there's no kids, really? Will. Yeah. When I was in Dallas, and I'm loath to say anything nice about Dallas on a weekend when they miraculously won a football game, but You know, there's kids, there's families, there's the mom with 2 toddlers, right? In New York, like one of the things one of the things you always end up doing is helping some woman with the baby carriage coming up the subway stairs, right? There's just no kids in these places. It's just like hipsters and you know, sort of millennials who work in tech, and there's no life in the place. It's really it's a very eerie place, honestly.
Wow, what interesting observation that is. I saw this video. I want to do this on the show about birth rates and where various countries are on birth rates and replacement levels, and it's really shocking and really scary. Like, this isn't a thing to just laugh at or to treat as a curiosity, like in Europe. And we're headed there in the U.S. I'd love to see a regional breakdown. Like, what are birth rates in city centers, you know, like Portland versus, you know, whatever.
Dallas, yeah. Well, look, the other thing, Will, about the kids is, I think that I know because I lived in New York City. If you have a 5-year-old, right, it's a much bigger problem for you to walk down the street with some guy having a needle sticking out of his arm, right? As an adult, okay, you walk by that. If you're walking with a toddler and the toddler goes, you know, Mommy, why does he have a needle sticking out of his arm? You're much more likely to think to yourself, boy, they really need to do something about this. So yeah, it's
right.
It is. Again, if you have a lot of money, and I guess Nick Kristof has enough money to be comfortable in Portland, yeah, you can be comfortable and you can like sort of ignore, nobody acknowledges you on the street. Now, granted, in West Virginia, we probably overdo that a little bit. You got to wave to everybody. But there's no acknowledge. The only people who acknowledge you on the street are the homeless people, which is probably why nobody else does.
How does that haircut go over in West Virginia?
Oh, it's fine in West Virginia. I mean, I'm not deep in West Virginia. You know, I'm in the Eastern Panhandle. Whenever you look at like maps of the South, my little section of West Virginia is included in like the Northeast, which is right. We're not the South, but so it goes over all right.
Oh, okay. So it's not like, what the hell is that boy? What kind of music is he
nobody
listening to?
nobody talks like that in West Virginia. They talk like Joe Manchin.
Really?
The worst West Virginia impression I've ever heard.
Yeah, but Nick Saban's from West Virginia. Like, who else? Like, you got a rich history of college football coaches with big accents.
Yeah, but they end up down in the South getting. No, but that happens to them. Like, I had 2 cousins who went to West Point, and they were Philly guys, and they talked just like I did. They both spent like 20 years in the military, and now you'd swear they were from Texas. I mean, they're just surrounded by it, and they pick it up.
So by the way, so nobody in West Virginia, or like the southern part of West Virginia, they have accents?
Maybe
West
in the
Virginians
deep.
don't have accents?
In the southern part, but remember, West Virginia is like half of West Virginia is like a stone's throw from Pittsburgh.
Right.
It's not the deep South.
Right.
You know, yeah. Morgantown and Pittsburgh.
I remember my other question.
Yeah.
I remember my other question. Speaking of history, okay, you said that you started this haircut in '92 and stuck with it. All right, I'm going to ask you a question. You can choose to answer whether or not. I don't know the answer to this question at all. How old are you, David?
50.
You're 50. Okay, we're the same age. Okay, so in '92 we were 17.
Yeah.
So you quit early. I love this theory. There's a theory that guys reach a certain age and then they quit. They quit evolving. Yeah. They quit looking for a new haircut. They quit with whatever the fashion is. They stick. And you can see guys, and they're like time capsules. And you can be like, look at him. He's still dressed like what was in style in '98, you know? And I've got a buddy like that. And I'm like, dude, how are you even finding jeans that fit like that anymore? Like, where do you go to get a jean that looks like the cut we were wearing in '98? He just stopped. He stopped. And you stop evolving on music. Like, I don't care. And that's me. Like, I very rarely is there new music. I'm stuck. I stopped in this one little period. And I think guys do that. But you stopped, at least with your hairstyle, pretty early. I think most guys stop about the age of 40, in that range, and they stop evolving.
Yeah, no, I stopped early. I mean, it helped that I was sort of deeply in love with a Morrissey fan, and that lasted a very long time. So, that was part of it. But I liked it. There were a couple times when like I would try something different, but I think by your mid-20s, you kind of know what works and what doesn't work. And like my son has very long hair. And I'm constantly trying to get him to like cut his hair, and he won't do. Not quite like Scott's, although I think he's trying to get there. And but you have kids, you know how it is. Like the more I say, why don't you get a haircut, the more he's like, doesn't want a haircut. Now though, because he's 15,
so, David,
I'm trying to convince him.
I want to. What is his haircut? Because I had this battle, and I'm gonna tell you something. Is it the mushroom haircut? Is it the mushroom
No, it's
afro,
like down
afro
here.
thing?
It's kind of curly. He looks good. I mean, he looks like, he looks like my dad in 1972, I guess. He doesn't look bad or whatever. I'm kind of trying to convince him that if he goes a little shorter, he'll do better with girls. But at this point, I think his mom has to do it. I don't know. Like he doesn't believe me, and maybe he shouldn't. Like, what do I know about what 16-year-old girls
they
want?
Don't listen.
I don't know.
My son had that very popular mushroom haircut. It's the one you've seen the meme where like everybody's sitting around the dinner table, and for some reason he looked over at grandma's haircut and goes, "That's rocking." And they did that thing, right? The thing that's like looks like your grandma's haircut. But he's moved on, and it's the first time I've been like, I kind of wish I had his haircut. Now he's doing not a mullet, but just a little bit of a mullet, like a little longer on the top and the side, on the back, and shorter on the sides, and it's looking pretty good. And I'm like,
you mean like the defense secretary was doing right before he moved on to his new position, right? I seem to recall him.
I got some issues.
Rocking a little bit of that.
I got some issues with the Secretary of War's mullet was a lot.
The Secretary of War, sorry,
he was basically growing the mullet from the top down. You got to grow it from the back out, and he was going.
Right.
He had like a bouffant thing going. It was like the size of his head this way, like from front to back, was getting too long. The hair is supposed to go down the neck, not out the back like that.
When I was in Portland, Fox and Friends reached out. They were like, "Can you do like 8 a.m. tomorrow?" I was like, that's like 5 in the morning, right? And they're like, yeah, like they didn't care. I mean, and it's my job, so I was like, yeah.
No,
like,
they don't care.
They ended up bumping me. They ended, thankfully, the night before, right? And it was the first time maybe not the first time, but I was definitely kind of like, you know what? I'm not mad about this one. Like, this is okay. I don't need to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get pretty.
At least they told you the night before.
Yes.
And you're lucky they said the 8 o'clock hour. I've been that guy before in Arizona when they're like, "We'd love you at the top of the show." I'm like, that's 6 a.m. East. That's like, and I can never remember if Arizona's on mountain time or what time they're on, but it's in the middle of the night in Arizona.
It's ridiculous.
All right. David Marcus, foxnews.com, Charade, the COVID lies that crushed a nation. He does great reporting on the scene, as you've heard right here. We appreciate you taking us behind the scenes in Portland. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Will. Have a good one.
All right, take care. All right, before we go today, I believe the boys back in New York, Tinfoil Pat, Two-A-Days Dan, have for us now a quick little episode of Final Takes. Take it away, Two-A-Days.
Final Take. That's it.
It's pretty good.
This is a very well-produced show.
All right. Yeah, so just kickstart that mule, Pat, whenever you want.
Yeah.
Get him
moving.
Will.
Sorry, I'm doing it for
you. Long pause. Hey, Patrick, did you know that Larry Ellison has his son, they bought CBS, and Barry Weiss from the Free Press has been named the editor-in-chief of the Free Press. And there's a lot of conversation around, like, does that mean CBS is going to be a little more right of center, a little more sane? And who knows? Maybe they could be looking for a new morning show host.
What?
So,
come on.
I know you've been working on that contract. Have you put a clip package together for CBS this morning?
I'm working on it. I'm going to take one of those clips of Bridget Fetisi saying that this is a very funny show, because I think I play a big role in that.
But your actual reel, he asked me to edit it down. It was about 35 seconds.
The actual reel?
Yeah.
Did it include the pauses?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the smoothness of that broadcast? Gail King says, for more, let's head over to Patrick Hatton. Hold on. Hold on. Let the silence sit for a minute. Thank you, Gail.
They say not to rush things, that you go faster than you think you are really. So, I try to
He lives in Florida. He lives in Jacksonville. It's a slow moving place, you know.
I mean, think about Trevor Lawrence on that final drive. I mean,
you just had to bring it up, didn't you? I told you not to. I told you not to.
I'm not bringing it up.
Actually, I think that Trevor Lawrence touchdown was a perfect analogy for the way you do final takes and quick takes. Hike the ball, trip, fall. Yes. Try to get up, trip, fall again, somehow miraculously not tackled in the 5 seconds of tripping and falling, and run into the end zone, score, and win the game. So that's a perfect analogy for you, Patrick.
That's great.
See?
That's so good.
Well, speaking of Barry Weiss, you're right. The Free Press was officially bought for $150 million, and she was named editor-in-chief of CBS News. So now she's leading the charge over at CBS. What do you think, Will?
So I just stole your entire final takes, which is like...
Well, you already threw out the first story I had, which was Zach Bryan. You said, we're going to do that tomorrow, and I'm like, damn it. Well, time to scramble.
And now I already did the Barry Weiss story, so I robbed you of your second final take story.
It's ruined.
I got a lot.
Is there
I got
a third?
A lot lined up. Oh, I got so many.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, go next. I've already talked about Barry Weiss and your future at CBS.
So we have famous director Ridley Scott, made a lot of great movies in the past.
Yes.
He said that we are drowning in mediocrity and that the quantity of movies made today are millions and they're total crap. And that he only watches his own movies. What do you think about today's movies?
I think he's spot on. Spot on. And I'm going to tell you guys something. So I had a big weekend, okay? The kind of weekend where you show up on Monday and you're tired. You know what I mean? And so I was tired yesterday. Like, I had the kind of weekend, if you pick it up what I'm putting down, where one night of catch-up sleep doesn't work for you. So I needed two. So last night, when I got home from work, I told my wife, I'm doing nothing now. I'm going to relax. Tonight, I'm going to bed early. And she's like, great, let's watch a movie. I said, that's a great idea. So I watched a movie that I started early and then saw the end of Jags Chiefs. I saw the final 10 minutes. That Kansas City Chiefs drive that took almost the whole clock, and I thought you were going to lose the game, but apparently all Trevor Lawrence needed was 45 seconds to trip and fall his way into the end zone. So the movie that I watched, and I'd seen it around, and you guys have heard me say, if this actor is in it, I'm in, okay? Who is it that you guys know? I think this guy might be my number one. If he's in it, I'm in. Do you guys know who I'm basically
You've
put there?
said it before.
There's Leo. There's Brad Pitt.
Damn it, I cannot.
And Leo
remember.
has a new movie out that I will see. Leo has a movie out at the theaters that I'm real interested in right now. I can't remember the name of it. But
Was it the one with the guns?
Denzel.
Denzel, yeah, I was going to say him. Yeah.
Denzel.
I want him to play me in a
Denzel.
biopic.
If Denzel, you want him to play you in a biopic?
Well, not now. I mean, he's older.
Oh, because he's older? That's why?
That's the problem. That's the problem is the age difference. For Denzel playing Tinfoil Pat. Hey, Denzel could do it. He could play you, Patrick.
Oh, he could.
And he'd do a great job.
He could do anything.
So, I mean, I would watch Denzel probably read the phone book. Like, he's that good. So, Denzel's got a movie out, and the director is Spike Lee. And by the way, Spike Lee, you know, he's done some movies I think are really good. What's the movie with the bank robber featuring Denzel and Clive Owen?
Inside Man.
Great. Inside Man. So good.
Really good.
Such a good movie. And so I'm like, Spike Lee, Denzel. I watched the preview, and it's about like this music mogul whose son is kidnapped. And I'm like, sounds pretty fun. That's how I get down, you know. I relax through a little bit of action. And I got to tell you, it's awful. You saw it, Ed? It's awful, right? What happened? It's literally, it doesn't make any sense. Not in the script writing, not in the pacing, even Denzel's performance. Nothing makes sense. The way the characters act, the way the plot weaves together, it is below mediocrity, to Ridley Scott's point. And I don't know how you put Spike Lee and Denzel Washington together, and you come out with that. And so maybe the digital streaming economy is actually also encouraging.
They don't take chances.
Like, or it's just like they mail it in a little bit. They get their money. It's going to streaming. You know, it kind of can fly under the radar, maybe. I don't know. But I almost want you to watch it. It's on Apple TV. Just to see. Because I was like, I'm going to go look this up and see if everybody else felt as badly about it as I did. And I don't want to. I think Spike Lee makes good movies sometimes. And I think Denzel almost is always a hit. And I'm shocked at how bad this is. And so, yes, I'm with Ridley Scott. Is that it? You got one more final take?
Well, I mean, we got some more stuff. There was a big debate. We're going to embrace debate. Dak Prescott was very low on a power ranking on The Athletic today. And it made Dan very upset. He thinks that Dak should be lower.
No.
And then you say Dak should be probably like 1 or 2. And I think it's probably somewhere in the middle.
I misread it first. They were talking about right now. I was talking about elite overall in my assessment at first. But yes, he should be higher on that list.
You're just talking about narrative. You're just into narrative. You're ready to be on First Take. Yes. I sent this article to you guys because I was mad. It says it was the top rankings this week, by the way.
Yeah.
This week. It's not like the abstract who's elite debate. And it had Dak at 12.
That's wrong.
Behind guys like Justin Herbert and Drake May. The article's about Drake May, who had a great game and is looking pretty good. If you're even paying casual attention to the NFL right now, there's probably nobody playing football quarterback at a higher level than Dak Prescott.
Matt Stafford.
There might be another guy or two that are in the range, but Dak is lights out right now. I bet he leads the league. And does he lead the league in touchdowns? Because he's thrown 3 or 4 for several games in a row. Touchdowns, there's only been 5 games, so he's got to be up there. He's just throwing it accurately on the spot. He's reading defenses, making adjustments, finding open guys. He's doing all of it without CeeDee Lamb and without 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen. You cannot put a list together and come out with Dak Prescott as number 12 right now. That is no credibility.
We got Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott. In touchdowns.
In touchdowns?
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson's still up there, even though he didn't play.
Yep.
He's been out for what? Just
10 and 1.
First week out?
10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Matt Stafford is 11 and 2. Jared Goff 12 and 2. Dak 10 and 3.
10 and 3. Dak is easy top 5 quarterback so far this season. He's perhaps better than that.
And fantasy
by the
points
way,
too.
You know somebody they had way above him? You know who's not playing well at the quarterback position? Jalen Hurts. Not playing well. Missing wide open receivers. And they had him at number 6, I think.
You have A.J. Brown.
So,
and he barely has more than 58 yards this entire season. He's one of the best receivers in the league.
Right.
What's happening?
Yeah. Well, Jalen's missing him. Did you see that play where he was running by himself down the field?
It's insane.
And Jalen Hurts just overthrew him. So I won't stand for slander.
I like to be a Dak hater
of Dak Prescott,
but I'm with you. I agree.
Wow, a rare agreeance from Tinfoil Pat.
I know.
It's almost like getting the endorsement of Denzel Washington. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on Final Takes and the Will Cain Country Show. We hope you will join us again tomorrow, same time, same place. Will Cain Country, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. We'll see you next time.